Hello there, and welcome to the I Never Knew podcast, also known as Inc. This show dives into the life experiences of people who have been through it all and have come through the other side stronger, better, and triumphant. Each story is raw, authentic, and, at times, heartbreaking. One thing joins it all together: the fact that the stories can help the listener learn and grow. Hosted by life coach Maureen, she sits down each episode with a new guest who will empower the listener to set out on their self-discovery journey and start to heal. Now you'll be joined by Maureen and her special guest. Please enjoy the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of I Never Knew, podcast by Maureen Scanlon, life coach. I'm so excited that you're here today. Once again, we have an amazing guest with an eclectic variety of experience that he's going to talk about and help you through. And I'm just so thrilled you're here. I am an author, a speaker, and certified life coach. So today joining me is Joe Templin, and Joe Templin is and I hope I say it right, a human Kaizen expert. And he's also the author of an Amazon Kindle #1 new release in professional development called Everyday Excellence. I mean, that title says it all, doesn't it, guys? So in addition to that, he is a math genius, and he gave me a huge word to challenge me today, and it is autodidactic polymath. Ooh, was that good? Was that close?
That was good. That was really good.
And he says he has more degrees than a thermometer, which I love. He is also an ultramarathoner, an international taekwondo champion, a special needs parent, as well as a former Intel officer. And it goes on and on. His resume is huge, but his personality is huger, if that's even a word. So welcome, Joe.
Maureen, thank you. And I don't think I'm a math genius. I was very good at mathematics young. I mean, I used to race the cashiers adding up the groceries when I was a little kid. But I've got some friends who are wicked smart mathematics. You know, like my one buddy, Dr. Adrian Scott, got his PhD in mathematics at 20. So, those are geniuses. I'm just, pretty good.
And humble too. So,
well, if you don't humble yourself and laugh at yourself, the universe is going to come on up and smack you in the back of the head, which is why I got a flat spot. Or maybe it's from my mom. I'm not sure.
It'll say, you think you're good? I'll find something you're not so good at.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that I do is I look for things that I'm not good at, these huge challenges, things that will humble me. And I go after them because it is one of the best ways to keep your ego in check, is trying something that's so far outside your normal capabilities. And what you do is you develop new skill sets that you can then use to cross-pollinate what you already have. And it keeps you in that green and growing mindset.
Yeah, it keeps us from getting comfortable, doesn't it?
Yep. And bored.
Yeah, definitely. Well, listeners, I want to say I send out a questionnaire and I ask questions and I get responses. But what my guests don't know is that I do my homework and I semi-stalk. So I did find a little fun something about Joe also, that he actually was severely asthmatic, and he pursued through that to become this ultra distance runner. And he also had a speech impediment, and now he has a career built around communicating. I mean, I think that just says everything, that we go from we're in this place of strife and challenge, and then here you are, you overcame all of it. And so you say that this is your habit of overcoming limitations, and it's a theme for your life and your writings. So without further ado, because it is I Never Knew, we always start with the challenge and the struggle. So tell us, what has been your biggest struggle? What has been the biggest challenge? And it doesn't have to be just one thing. I know that you have several things, so you take it from there. Where did your struggle start?
Well, I was severely asthmatic as a kid, as you mentioned, and actually I was dead at one point from my asthma.
What?
I got better, obviously, as they say in my Python. But so yeah, I was 10 years old. I was having an asthma attack back in the 70s, early 80s. They didn't have the puffers and all that, so I was at the doctor, and they were trying to give me adrenaline, and I'm having trouble breathing. I'm like, and all of a sudden, I'm floating on up, and I have no there's no pain, and there's the bright light, and all of a sudden, I'm looking down at my body, and my mom's flipping out, and Doc Murray is like an octopus, and all of a sudden, the big deep voice, it's not yet his time, and boom, I'm back down my body, and they took me off to the hospital, and so that's one of the reasons why I don't waste time. I look to multitask. As my friends joke, I burn the candle at both ends and in the middle with a flamethrower.
I love that. You're going to see me taking notes because there's going to be a lot of information I want to come back.
When people ask, do I sleep? Yes, I sleep. Last night I got a whole 3 hours and 36 minutes.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
I feel like Buddy the Elf in a lot of ways. Yeah, I got a whole 20 minutes, and I'm a cotton-headed ninny muggins and all that.
I always say I'll sleep when I'm dead. I got things to do here before I go. Yeah. So a near-death experience. I mean, that's really incredible because not a lot of people obviously have experienced that. Everything that they say you just described, you were above your body and you heard the voice. I mean, and that's life-changing, obviously. That at 10 years old had this huge impact on you that you thought, oh, wow, I can't waste any time. And now I just don't need any sleep. And
so if you want me to lay on your couch, Dr. Freud, and explain how, that trauma, I've gone through post-traumatic growth like Dombrowski talks about. And that's the reason why I am so hyper-driven in so many ways. And combine that with the curiosity that I had. My mom was a nun in the college biology professor. So they encouraged us to collect bugs and pursue our interests and, go read the entire encyclopedia. And so being an incredibly curious sponge combined with that just not having an off switch in a lot of ways, being ADHD helps too. That combination is one of the things that allows me to have accomplished everything that I have. But other people can do much more than they believe just by starting to push their envelope a little bit more.
I look at you and I hear what you're saying, and I get I have a child with ADHD as well, and I'm also been diagnosed with ADD. And looking at you, I resonate because I feel like you have this thirst for life, like you can't get enough. You can't get enough of it. You want to learn, you want to see, you want to do, you want to be.
Yes, I'm incredibly passionate, and in fact, I've been told that I'm too much because I just keep pushing in all directions all the time personally, and it upsets or turns other people off because I'm like, what do you mean you're content, sitting on the couch eating Cheetos, watching The Bachelor? Yeah,
no, you're never too much. Don't ever let somebody tell you you're too much. And the new saying, I'm enough is mediocre. So you and I'm
are good enough, exactly, but I'm not all I could be is really what we should be telling ourselves. I, as a human being, as a person, I'm good enough. I deserve love. I deserve attention. I deserve to have good things. However, I can still be more. And having that balance is the sweet spot, I think, where you can be happy but not content.
Yes. I love that. At the lowest point in your life that you were having struggle, you talk about you were going through a divorce and COVID, and you were fighting for your kids and financial stresses with your businesses. Tell us what that felt like. What was your mindset at that time? Even the best of us, the coaches, we got to coach ourselves sometimes. Tell me what that felt like, and if someone's in that situation, how you got out of that.
I'm a big comic book guy. You can see like all my Thors back there. And so Steve Rogers, Captain America, throughout the movies, you see him getting just the absolute crap kicked out of him. And he's wobbling and he stands back up and he's like, I can do this all day. And Rocky talks about, it's not how hard you can hit, it's how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. That's how winning's done. That's how life is. And so I've got a saying, if it's not fatal, it's fixable. And,
Nice.
As the great champion Jack Dempsey said, a champion is somebody who gets up when they can't. So I had no choice. I couldn't stay down. So I had to get back up and get back in the ring, figuratively, and just keep fighting and keep taking the blows and, trying to figure it out, because what was the alternative? I'm not going to lay down and die. I'm not going to abandon my kids. I'm not going to, just give up and go live in the woods and, become a hermit. So there was, in the Trojan War, they burned the ships. And so there was no alternative. You have to go forward. You have to succeed. That's what it was like. So it's like, all right, I have to figure this out. And it's like, all right, boom, that didn't work. Boom, that didn't work. Bang, that didn't work. All right, wait a minute, give me a second here. All right, let's keep going back in the ring. And it literally felt like that for, most of the lockdown, because literally the hits just kept coming. And as soon as I'd start making headway in one area, I'd get hit in a different direction, hit in a different direction. And it just kept compounding. And it literally was beating on my soul. And it's like, how can I get through this? I was starting to feel that desperation that other people have at times, because there was just so much pressure, so many different things coming on in so many different directions. And, so I focused on doing what I could do at that moment. So a technique that I have is every day I write down the most important things, 4 or 5 most important things on an index card of what I need to accomplish that day that are not scheduled. So like, we're meeting at a particular time, that doesn't go on here, that's on the calendar, but this is how I fill in the time around it. And so I've knocked off 1 out of the 4, and I'm waiting to hear back on 2 of the others. And so that way I can make progress and celebrating those small victories. Okay. So if you have even a tiniest victory, it's something you can celebrate. My father taught me decades ago, always look for the pearl in any situation, the pearl of wisdom. You take a class, what's the one thing you can extract? You go to a seminar, you have an interaction with a client, you read a book, you're on a podcast. What's the one pearl you can take from that? Because if you can stretch together enough pearls of wisdom, then you have a very rich life. And so I actually have a talk loosely based around some of the concepts in the book called Pearls of Excellence. And there's, depending on the length of the talk, 5 to 7 different little stories and vignettes with examples and ideas that people can then string together to hopefully be a little bit richer in their own life. And those pearls very often come about from something annoying, a piece of dirt, a small rock, a chip getting inside the oyster. And that's how it ends up protecting itself, by creating something of beauty.
Wow, that's a really great analogy. It's a great visual, that thing that feels annoying can actually turn into this beautiful thing of worth. I really, really, I love and appreciate that. So you're the guy that gets knocked down and keeps getting back up. What about those people that feel hopeless and helpless? And when you feel hopeless and helpless, you lose all motivation to get up. You have no energy to do it. You don't even know what the first step is. What's the mantra that you said to yourself, or the first step that every time you got knocked down, you said this?
So it's doing the smallest possible thing that's a victory. So if getting out of bed in the morning is a victory, do it. If taking a shower is a victory that you can do it. If you can't take the shower, then don't take the shower. Today's not the day for that. Okay, you do it tomorrow, unless you're my 15-year-old kid and you stink and you need a shower. If it's have just a warmed up Pop-Tart and that's all you can stomach, okay, do it. If it's actually having something nutritious and healthy that's good for you and not processed, even better. But whatever that smallest thing is, and then try and put together a couple of small victories.
Oh, that's
because
great.
2 victories in a row is a winning streak. Even the worst team in baseball can put together a 2-game winning streak.
Nice. So it's basically wherever your energy is, just allow yourself to go wherever that energy is. If it's low some days, just do low energy things. If it's high energy, do high energy things.
Exactly, but no goose eggs. No goose eggs. So you have to accomplish something.
I love that. Tell me what's on your list of things outside of business calendar stuff, just for an example of what you do that's going to be a small victory?
Well, I have my habit stack in the morning. So I get up, I dump out whatever's in my brain from sleeping, for that 3 hours and 36 minutes that I slept today. Then I sit down and I read every single morning. So I actually read my own copy of Everyday Excellence and do the action item. Right now I'm reading The Daily Laws by Robert Greene. Last year was The Daily Stoic. I've always got a daily reader like that to give me a slightly different thing to think about. Then after I read, then I go and work out. And so I'll do a 20-minute run. I'll do Taekwondo. I'll work out for about 30-ish minutes 30 minutes is basically the threshold for telomeric health long range, but it's just enough to really get my brain totally going. Then I sit down and I write again. I'll write for anywhere from 5 minutes to 30 minutes at that point, but that's a small victory. Even if I throw out 95% of what I wrote, I still wrote that day. So the streak's ongoing. I am a writer. A writer writes every single day, right? And everybody should be a winner. A winner wins every single day. Even if it's a small win, you have a streak of wins. And so then I'll go and I'll do another quick workout. Then I'm getting ready for the day, showering, eating, all that. And then it's rolling on into the office. So my morning, I get up at 4:15 typically. So by 5:30, I've actually accomplished more than most humans do in a day. And I'm set up to then go be able to do other things because after that workout and feeding my mind and taking care of my spirit, I am, on fire. I'm like, bang, let's go. Super high energy in the morning. I've always been that way. So I'm, it's a little afternoon. I'm still on my morning high from that at 7 hours ago. And that will last another couple hours. And then I need to recharge real quick, and then I can go for another 5 or 6.
I really love morning rituals, and I think exercising and outlets, mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, we got to get that stuff out. And what you just described is your way of exercising in all of those ways before your day even starts. It's not even like this drawn out 12-hour thing. You're like,
because chaos always ensues. I mean, there's going to be a problem with one of the kids when you have multiple kids. There's always going to be a problem with work. The dog runs away, there's an accident, it rains, something like that that's going to disrupt you. So get it done in the morning, and then you're riding that wave of energy. But also, it doesn't matter, the world can screw everything up for the rest of the day, and you still won the morning. And so overall, you win the day. Win the morning, win the day, as I say.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So I know that you're the father of a special needs child.
Sure.
2 special needs children. Okay, this is really good. That's something near and dear to my heart. I want to know, how do you find time for yourself if you talk to the parents, the mothers and fathers who are taking care of their special needs children, because they're very high energy and they require a lot of attention and effort. So how do you balance the needs that your children have with also being able to get your stuff done and do some self-care?
Well, sometimes you're going to have to make sacrifices for them. So, let's put that out there. I don't always get to do what I want. It's just part of being a parent. It doesn't matter if your kids are special needs or not. So your kids should come first in a lot of ways. Other things is I multitask in a lot of ways. So I'll be cooking dinner for them, listening to a podcast and supervising homework. If you listen real carefully, you can actually hear the 2 of them outside my office door, because it was Bring Your Hooligans to the Office day. So my 15-year-old's probably asleep on the couch, because that's what 15-year-olds do. And the 11-year-old's probably watching something on his tablet and trying to harass his brother. So in between meetings and stuff like this, I'll go on out, I'll hang out with them, I'll make sure that they're doing their summer reading, things like that. I'll run with them. I will take them to their various events that they have, and I'll hang out and I'll return text messages and stuff like that in between down moments. My kids are both in Boy Scouts, the younger 2, and so I was the scout leader for all 3 of them all the way through. Worst scout leader ever, by the way, as they say. Worst father too. They'll tell you that. So that way we could have this time together.
Yes.
So it's finding, because we only get 86,400 seconds per day. Doesn't matter if you're my 11-year-old kid or Elon Musk, we all have the same allocation. So it's one, try to not waste the time. So that's the reason why, even though I'm ADHD, I'm very organized in terms of things, probably because of the ADHD, I compensate with it. But I'm also very structured with my time, and I build habit stacks like James Clear talks about, like that entire morning thing. So that way I'm effective. What I didn't tell you is I grab my cup of coffee, I turn on the coffee pot so I can brew, and I set that up the night before. So I have the cup of coffee while I'm sitting there doing my reading, and then the fresh coffee is ready afterwards. But that's basically doing pre-planning in a lot of ways so that you can minimize the waste of your time. So my business owner clients, I'm like, okay, if you're supposed to do these different things every day, make sure you have your tools ready, whether it's physical tools or computer tools or a list of people that you're supposed to call. Make sure you have that stuff out so you're not dorking around and wasting your time. And that's something when you were talking earlier about, how was I handling the dark times? The Stoics talk about the dichotomy of control, things that are in your control and things that are outside your control. And it's really a trichotomy. There's things that you don't control at all, whether the sun comes on up, whether Russia invades Ukraine, whether the aliens come down to Earth, and things 100% in my control. My attitude, if I pick up the phone, if I sit there and write, whether it's good or bad, I control whether I'm writing or not. Whether I work out, I can't control whether it's a good workout or a bad workout, but I can control that I'm working out. And then there's things under influence. That's whenever you have somebody else involved. So relationships are not control, they're influence. You can control your response to the other person. You can make sure that you lay the groundwork to do the right things. You can do everything to prepare, but I can't control another human being, unfortunately. I'm not Professor Xavier. So having these different components and things that are at the edge of my influence and beyond my control, but directly influence me, and I used to be able to have more influence over, that's where the problem is lie. That's where I have the most difficulty, I freely admit. So watching my friends screw up their lives because of their addiction, not listening to me when I saw the signs 4 years ago, that is the sort of thing that hurts the most. Watching my kid make some dumb moves, even when I had warned him and tried to set things up so that he could make less dumb choices, that's the things that get my goat.
And that's super common. And I throw that in the category of expectations. So I expect you to behave this way. I expect you to react to me this way. And we will be disappointed every time because we are not in charge of anyone else. And I've always said to my clients, when you change, people change around you because you have the boundaries to allow what is in your life. So if I have a toxic relationship, I say, I don't want to allow that any longer, and I'll distance myself. So now I'm not influenced by that person's unawareness, so shall we say, self-awareness.
And sometimes addition by subtraction is the only way to go within a business or with relationships. Sometimes you have to put somebody on silent for a while.
Yeah.
It's like Dr. Jordan Peterson talks about, they teach lifeguards to save somebody, but be cautious and be ready to kick that person away, because if they bring you down and you drown too, you're both dead. Oh. That's not a good situation. So sometimes you got to watch people crash and burn and destroy themselves with the hope that you can help them put the pieces back together, or they can rise from the flames like the phoenix, yes, as opposed to burning you and everybody else around you.
And that would be codependence and enabling that a lot of us, myself included, have done, especially as a parent. It's hard for you to watch your child fail. It's hard to see them hurt. Your job is to protect them. And
no, it's not. My job is to make them ready to face the world. Okay, yes. To make them independent leaders and good human beings that can take care of themselves. I actually have a quote on my board from Goethe that is relevant right here. Too many parents make life hard for their children by trying too zealously to make it easy for them. And yes, that's one of the major problems that we have in our society, is that we have parents that try to make things too easy for too long, whether that parent is the government, the actual parents, the union, the association, what have you. They've made it too easy for them, and so they have not developed the resilience that having bad breaks or growing up in poverty or having things that you need to overcome has developed in other individuals.
Right. And it becomes this projection of our own stuff. For me, I was acting out of guilt. I made bad choices and decisions in the father that I chose for them. And I carried that throughout their adult children now. But I carried that throughout their childhood. Like, oh, I shouldn't have picked this person. He's not doing what he's supposed to. So I'm going to overcompensate. So
and I'm going to be the perfect parent. I'm going to do it all.
Never. I know this fits so perfect. So the theme that I'm getting is, do the smallest thing that's a victory, and preparation and planning are so key. I would say
we make about 10,000 micro decisions every single day. And we have someplace between 50 and 80,000 individual thoughts, but somewhere around 75% of them are routine and repetitive. So if we can set the environment up so that you're making the better choice by default, this is the whole idea behind nudge theory, which Thaler got the Nobel Prize in economics for. So if you can, make it so that you're choosing between two healthy options instead of between cakes and cookies, or, cupcake and something healthy, because we're always going to take the cupcake, obviously. But if we have the choice between two healthier things, then one, we don't have to have discipline because we set out the environment to make the better choice naturally. And if you can do that and make a couple of better micro decisions every single day, that day then becomes a victory. And your arrow's pointing up. And you get enough up pointing days in a week, you have an up pointing week. And you start stringing those together, and that's how you get the nonlinear growth curve represented on the front of the book of moving up and achieving some form of excellence.
What is your favorite part in the book that you think is the golden nugget that if anybody takes anything away from your book, this is the piece you want them to take?
It's the story of Hercules that actually Ryan Holiday talks about at the beginning of his book, Courage is Calling. So when Hercules was a young demigod, he's just like all the other demigods wandering Greece at that point, because Zeus was always out there catting around. So he came to a crossroads, and there were two paths, and along each was a goddess. On one path was a goddess clad in linen, gorgeous, and she promised him a life of ease. He would never have any struggles. He would have every earthly desire met. He would have a hedonistic existence. However, after 3 generations, his name would be forgotten, and he'd be in the darker places of the underworld. The other goddess was clad in armor, and she promised him pain. She promised him suffering. She promised him risk and opportunity in the labors. And if he took that risk, and if he succeeded, he would take his place among the gods on Olympus. And Hercules took the path of difficulty and ended up taking his place among the gods. So in every situation that we have, we really have 2 critical paths in terms of the choices. We have the easy path. What feels good now? I'm going to take the drag on this cigarette because it makes me feel good in the moment. I'm going to play video games instead of studying for my exam. I'm going to go on this dating app, even though, I'm in a relationship. I'm going to look for a quick hit of, dopamine. I'm going to avoid the difficult discussion with the person that I care about. And I'm going to eat the donut. I love donuts. So I'm going to eat the donut or 5 donuts. Okay. And it feels good in the moment. But if you continue down that path, what happens? You get diabetes. Your pants don't fit. You have heart problems. 9 out of 10 leading causes of death in the United States are lifestyle diseases. You get divorced. You don't pass your test. You fail out of college, and you've got a horrible career path going forward. You keep smoking cigarettes and you get lung cancer, or you make the other choices that give you that fix in the moment. You feel good for a short period of time, but it creates a worse path. Or you can take the hard path that Hercules took. And this is the path with higher activation energy, if you want to think of it from a chemistry point of view. It takes work. Okay. This is going out and running in the rain instead of sitting on the couch. This is studying for the exam so that you get through engineering school so that you get the better job and can succeed. This is sitting your significant other or your business partner down and having that difficult conversation that leads to better outcomes. This is doing the hard things, and they lead to a better path. They lead to a better life. It's difficult in the short term. It's the hard but right way. And so you can choose the path of convenience, or you can choose the path of excellence.
Love that. And it's so true. And the theme of every single episode I've had is every single person said choice. Once I discovered choice, and it's just really, I'm learning this is the dichotomy of human existence is choice. And every single episode, it comes out and I get this, there it is. There's the word. What do you think our childhood programming per se has to do with the ability of us to change and to find that we have choices? What stops us?
What we experience as children, and actually every single day going forward from that point, so we're all just big kids, hopefully, is that we program what's called the reticular activation system, the RAS, which is literally the software in our brains that we use to filter the environment, because we need to filter out the stimulus or the noise to find the proper signal in there. Because let's go back 25,000 years ago when we're first really getting into small tribal units, and you hear a rustling. You need to check and see, is that the saber-toothed tiger going to eat me? Or is it just, the wind? Or is it something that I should go after and try and eat? And so we program like that. And that's part of the reason why a lot of people still have anxiety, because it's based off of that, and they're using their neocortex to actually compound it and make it worse in a lot of ways. But every experience that we have gets embedded in us in some capacity. Now, we might try and bury it, and as Freud said, things that are buried burst forth bearing bitter fruit, or we can assimilate it and slowly change our perception. We can modify our programming, and we can self-program. That's one of the reasons for positive affirmations. That's the reason for gratitude. That's the reason for prayer, meditation, things like this, is that it's allowing us to program our mind in a different capacity. This is why the fifth time entrepreneur tends to be successful, because they're seeing the opportunities that are there for everybody else to see. They're just programmed to see it better. And every time they start a new company, they hone in on that skill set even further. This is the reason why, like, as an intel officer, I'm aware of, hey, that person's acting weird. Hey, that person's left-handed, which is something that you notice. That person, is walking with a slight, back injury. Hey, that person, you can tell by their hands that they're an experienced martial artist because of where the calluses are. And you notice and pick up these things. And so it changes the way that you are. And so we actually have choice in that. We choose what books we read. We choose whether we work out or not. We choose what we read. We choose what we eat. Okay. And there's an immense amount of research around what you put in your mouth, how it influences your biochemistry, and can help your depression and anxiety. And working out, same thing, what you read. So if you read, pop porn or, bodice rippers or whatever it is, and you're setting up this expectation of the rich older guy and the young innocent woman and all that, and that's not what my love life's like, so of course you're disappointed. And you sit there and you eat highly processed fatty foods all the time, and you sit on your butt in front of the computer or the TV all day long, and you watch reality TV, which is just messing with you even further, and you get into this cycle of negativity. Well, that's very different than the person who then gets off the couch and walks a little bit and chooses slightly healthier food. And so they could be starting at the exact same point, but because of the different choices that they're making in a year, their minds are completely different.
I love what you say about the observation, because I'm an observer. And I love watching and figuring people out. When I'm in a restaurant, my poor husband's sitting across from me, and I'm really more watching everybody else, you know?
People watching is highly entertaining.
Oh,
and like I'll go out
trying to figure out what their story is, and go ahead with your.
I was having a conversation with a podcaster about a month ago who's also a cop in former special forces, and we got off on a tangent. We were talking about how, like, we can't sit with our back to the door in a restaurant, and so like his daughter and he and his wife went out, and the daughter, who's like 17, is like, no, dad can't sit there. He needs to face the door and see what's going on. And so like when I'm out with my buddies, it's like, okay, you can see how we sit so that one's watching where the servers come out, one's watching the door, and we've got eyes on everything. And it's not paranoid, because that's how people who are in the field end up surviving. But when you take that from that sort of world into the civilian life, it can lead to anxiety and overstress and things like this. And so it's being able to dampen down those skill sets or those mindsets to change that RAS, because what you need to survive in a war zone is very different than what you need to survive in a peaceful environment. And so people who grew up in war zones or under constant pressure or behind the Iron Curtain with, the secret police and all that, they exhibit a lot of signs of complex PTSD in a lot of ways. And so that influences all their decisions today. And so, if you grow up in that environment where you have to lie all the time, being able to be in a truthful relationship years later becomes very difficult, because in a lot of ways they still revert to that mindset back behind the Iron Curtain.
A repetition of thought or habit that now becomes just this innate part of who you are. Funny that you should say that. I dated a police officer, and now every time we go to a restaurant, my husband knows where to sit me, which is facing the door. I can't believe you even said that, because it was obviously subconsciously, it was inserted into me. And I worked in an emergency room trauma center where you always have to be on your toes. And I worked the graveyard shift, which is the hairiest.
Which is when all the crazies come in.
Full moons, and don't say the Q word, don't say it's quiet tonight, because then you're just going to get this rush.
Yeah, you curse us. It's like blowing the no-hitter in the 8th inning.
Yeah. And that observation versus saunder. So saunder, just people being in their own little bubble and doing their own thing, this observation. You can learn so much by just watching. You don't have to always read a book, or you don't have to always join a class or do an online course. I've learned more by watching people than I've ever learned in a classroom. How about you?
So the best course in sales and psychology was being a bartender in grad school.
Yes. Psychology for sure.
Yeah, it's applied psychology. And so you learn how to observe, you learn how to interact, you learn to hold your line. No, those drinks are X price. Well, I'm not paying that. Well, you're not getting these drinks. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Right? And how to command respect and authority. So like there was one time somebody tried to come behind my bar. He was one of the hockey players at hockey school. I knocked him out and, told his buddies, get him out of here. And the next day he came in and apologized and asked permission to come on back. And that was, we established the line.
Yes, boundaries, judgment calls, someone had too much to drink, listening to people's problems, having empathy. Wow, you are so on point with that. I never thought about how important our bartenders are, or even our servers. I think our servers too. I worked a second job as a single parent as a server in the evenings, and I loved it because I love talking to people. Obviously, this is what I do. So I love the bartender. I love the bartender idea. I think that should be a mandatory course now if you're going to be doing anything in psychology. What do you think? You should be
I think that would be absolutely awesome, because you listen to learn.
Yes.
Or you learn to listen. So, and you learn what you were talking about earlier, those boundaries. It's like, okay, that's enough. Or, ooh, this person's really off, the reservation here. How can I bring them back in? Or how can I get them out of this environment because they're going to hurt somebody else? How do I pleasantly get, an authority figure to be able to interact here? Because I think there's some red flags on this individual.
Ooh, I love that you just said that, because I was going to ask you how how do people trust their gut versus so you're programmed. Say you were programmed, the sayings when we were kids, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all, or, be nice. How do you overcome your gut says this doesn't feel good being around this person, but my programming said you just have to tolerate people because that's what we do?
Oh, see,
What
I
do you,
was lucky because my parents never taught me to tolerate people. They taught me to be honest. And if the honesty was going to be hurtful, then to shut up or get out of the situation.
ooh, everybody listen to that. Listeners, did you hear that? If you have children, please, please, please take what his parents did, because a lot of us, it was more the codependency programming where you just do what I say, you put up with people. That's one of the things I hear often. Well, that's just how they are. And then you're supposed to just put up with that's just how they are.
No, I mean, that's not an excuse for somebody to be an asshole.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Because other people had the exact same bad experiences that you did, and they're not a jerk. They're not, an extractive mindset. They're not a narcissist. They're not, playing victim mentality and, thinking that they're owed whatever, or, going out there and harming people. And so, I mean, I've told, high powered executives, no, you're wrong, right to their face. And I have no problem doing it, which is probably the reason why I can't work in corporate America, because I'm very much the Sigma male, or as I prefer to say, Ronin. I'm a masterless samurai. So if somebody's a jerk, I tell them they're a jerk. If somebody's being abusive to somebody else, I don't tolerate it. I don't care if you're the CEO of the company. If you're being, a horrible human being, I'm just going to tell you, knock it the hell off.
Nice. Nice. I love that. Not everybody can do that. Speaking
I
your
don't
truth.
like bullies. When I was just under 2 years old, my older brother, who's my Irish twin, took my toys. I was playing, he stood up, came over, grabbed my toy, took it away, and I stood up, walked out over, bang, knocked him right on his butt, took my toy. And my grandmother, whose nickname was Rocky because of her right cross, looked at me and said, "Good boy, never let anyone bully you." And then she died like a week later. So that's my last memory of my grandmother. And that is one of the reasons why I'm like this.
Oh my gosh, so deeply ingrained because of the memory of her, as well as it was reinforced. Like, go ahead, do this, defend yourself, fight for yourself. So
Right.
it's amazing
And
how
fight for people who can't fight for themselves. That's one of the things that as you accumulate power in this world of various capacities, that power needs to be used to protect the weaker and the smaller. And, I'm not a big fan of government in a lot of ways. I'm very libertarian because, but I believe in that when you get power, whether it's financial power, whether it's others, influence, that you need to use it to protect those who can't protect themselves from those who would exploit them.
Yes, I am with you on that. Use it for good. Use it for good, not for your own gain, your own personal gain and manipulation. So we have about 15 minutes left. So to sum up, I have two things. The first one is obviously the name of the podcast, I Never Knew. I want you to tell us what it is that the Joe in front of me knows that he didn't know when he was younger. What's the one thing you never knew?
There's lots of things, because I make lots of, as Thor says, I make grave mistakes all the time. Just because you have talent is no guarantee of success. Being the former gifted child, I started college at 13 because my parents said 12 was too young. The path was supposed to be, all right, go to college, get my PhD by the time I'm 22, 23, go work for the government while getting my professorship. And, eventually I would do something incredibly significant in physics. And that all went by the wayside. Being a young martial artist, I was incredibly successful. I mean, I was on track. I beat Olympians in my weight class and everything. I was going to go to the Olympics. And then something came from left field and, ended up not having that. I write this book, I'm getting all these accolades and all this, and it's going to be a New York Times bestseller right out of the gate. And, months later, still struggling on the marketing end and all these other components because it's beyond my knowledge base. I write, I'm not a marketer. So, just because you have talent, even if you work your butt off to become incredibly good, even excellent or masterful within that space, that's not a guarantee that you're going to have the unicorns showing up with bags of money and cupcakes and rainbows, and it's going to be awesome all the time. It's never like that. And sometimes you're going to have to struggle for weeks, months, years, decades. And sometimes you're going to be stuck in a struggle forever because of things beyond your control or choices that you made when you were younger. But you know what? If you keep going, yeah, so I don't have a Lamborghini. Yeah, I don't have 100 acres in the middle of nowhere with a castle on it like that I always wanted. But you know what? I'm not doing too bad.
Yeah, it's looking at what you have and not what you don't have. And I want the unicorns and cupcakes showing up. So I tend to believe that what I want will show up, but I don't have patience. And I think that's a big factor. You said you started college at 15?
13.
13. Guys, do you hear that? Do you hear that he was in competition winning with people that were Olympians? You're so rounded in that, and the ability to persist and just to keep going.
Well, that's my biggest superpower is that I'm Irish. I'm too stupid to give up. So, I got a thick head. I literally totaled my car with my skull. So I used to be wicked smart before that. So, if there's something that is truly meaningful and it's right, you don't stop fighting. That's one of the things that being a special needs parent teaches you. There's no days off. That kid needs your help. So I don't care if you're, the parent of a kid with pediatric cancer like my friend Jen, or a diabetic kid, or it's a mental issue like my kids, it doesn't matter. You keep going. You keep doing what you have to do. And so in terms of our own survival and own mental health, not every day is going to be excellent, but you can make it a decent day. You can keep going. You can make sure that there's those no goose eggs that we talked about. And if you believe in something, you will find a way and you will keep doing the work, whether it's building your business or that relationship with your crush, or, battling back from cancer or a physical injury of some form. If the goal is that important and you believe, you can do the work to not necessarily get to the Olympics, but get to the point where you can compete again, or you can enjoy the sport and still derive value from it. Oh. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it.
Be Hercules. Don't go the easy route, guys, like he said. And just because you're gifted or talented does not mean you'll be successful. You have to do the work, is what Joe was saying. So to sum it up, I always ask this question: what is your shameless self-indulgence?
I have to think about that. Oh, no, actually, no. This is pretty easy. It's donuts. It's Boston cream donuts. So National Donut Day was in June, and it was also my cheat day I'm preparing for some stuff in martial arts. So I get one day of eating whatever I want diet-wise per month. So it was on National Donut Day. So I had 10 Boston cream donuts and coffee, and that's all I had for the day. And over the week, I still lost a pound. Then on my birthday last week, it was my 50th birthday. So I got up and I'm actually 30-20. I refuse to admit that I'm 50. So I'm 30-20 years old. So I got up and I did my intense workout that I was planning for that. So I did 50 pull-ups. I did 500 kettlebell swings. I did 500 punches each hand. I did all my Taekwondo forms. I did a 5-mile run. And then I went and had 5 Boston cream donuts, and I had wings with my kids and all that. Birthday calories don't count. It's in the rules someplace.
I'm good with that. I'm good with that.
I growing up on the farm, if you didn't work, you didn't eat, and I love to eat. So that's how I, developed my work ethic. So yeah, I like all the yummy food.
I love it. Boston cream donuts are my favorite too. And I'm just going to say every woman over 50, like myself, in menopause or postmenopausal wants to just slap you because we couldn't get away with the 10 donuts and not gain a pound. Our metabolisms, I think women over 40 it just slows down. I used to be this tiny little thing, and now every little carb I eat, it's there.
Well, I'm incredibly disciplined with my diet other on those cheat days. And my daily step goal is 16,000 steps minimum. I've hit it for 45 days in a row, and I average about 25,000. Plus I do like ice therapy every single day and stuff like that. So if you want to sit in an ice bath for a couple of minutes so that you can have donuts, that's part of the trade-off.
I'm not going that way. I'm not going to be Hercules on that one. What is your self-care, self-indulgence? Like the thing, like I have a lot of people that like the comic books or they work. Some people say that work is self-care. What's your self-care, self-indulgent thing?
So there's really two. One is that I take that 90 minutes per day to work out no matter what, because I need that for me and that makes me better in terms of the other things. But the other thing is that about a year ago, I had a pretty significant back injury. And I went to see a physiotherapist and she literally said, "You're nothing but muscle held together by scar tissue. How do you function?" And that, like, it also explains the mind too. We're nothing but, experiences stitched together by the emotions and our interpretations thereof. But I go and I actually see her on a regular basis because I do so much damage to my body in other ways. And she's like, "Oh, scar tissue here, scar tissue there, found this. So I make that investment on a regular basis in terms of maintenance of the machine, essentially, because I'm planning on living to 105. I'm going to win my age division in a race in the 100 plus division. And the only reason I'm saying that is because I'm not fast. So I need to just literally outlast everybody else.
I love that. I love that vision board. I love your saying, "I'm going to do this. I'm going to," just like getting up every day saying, "I get to." You said, "I'm going to." I'm so pleased to have you here, and I'm going to give you the last few minutes to promote what you have going on. Give us your websites, your books, where your book is available. Take it away.
So I'm not good at promoting myself. So the book, Everyday Excellence, Daily Guide to Growing, it's basically a multivitamin for life. So it's designed to be a 2 to 3 minute read every single day because it's got a passage for every day of the year, including leap year, and an action item to crystallize the concepts of that day so that we actually do something. Because if we're not actually changing and doing things, then it's just, thoughts and prayers and woo-woo and all that. It doesn't actually manifest it. But if you're actually going out and applying it and doing it, it solidifies it within your brain and your habit structure. So the book, as I said, it's 2 to 3 minute read every single morning. It's available Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all the places where books are. You might have to request it from your local bookstore. It's also available at my website, everyday-excellence.com. And as I said earlier, I want to be able to sell, to make the New York Times bestseller list as a subset of selling 1 million copies of the book. But that's actually a subset of something even bigger. I want to be able to reach and help 100 million people over the next 12 months. I don't care if it's through podcasts like this, radio interviews, articles that I write, stuff on my website. Every single day I post a new microblog. So every single day there's new information up there that people can go to for free to learn. And they can go find the books and things like that. So if I can reach 100 million people and help make their lives better in some tiny capacity, they become little nodes that ripple on out and interact with other people. And so that 100 million really becomes 1 billion plus people who can have a better life because of the work that we're doing. So that ultimately is my goal right there, is to have that sort of worldwide impact and make other people discover their excellence.
I love that. And that's the synergy of this podcast. And we're all in this like-minded space of just helping everyone and being that pebble, that ripple, that sending that ripple out into the lake. So It's been an absolute pleasure. Your children were very, very patient with Dad doing this. They're used to probably like, if that door is shut, Dad is off limits. So what a pleasure to have you. And I think you guys go get his book and go find him, go find his blog, and let's do this. Let's spread the word. Let's blow everything up so we have 100 million and plus people changing their lives. I am your host, Maureen Scanlon. I also have books available on Amazon. My dog is more enlightened than I am. And my dog is my relationship coach because I think dogs are the absolute professors of life. And I think we can learn so much, and they don't even speak. So, sometimes just watching and observing how carefree and loving they are helps. So I also have my Facebook and my Facebook group, Mindfulness and Positivity Seekers. Come and join us. We're growing bigger every day. Thank you all again for tuning in. Go like and share, follow. Let's spread the word. Let's blow this up. 5-star reviews would be appreciated. And I thank you, Mr. Joe, and you have an awesome day.
Maureen, be excellent and grow today.
I shall.
Thank you for tuning in to the I Never Knew podcast. If you found today's episode inspiring and educational, please be sure to follow, subscribe, and spread the word. The more people that join the Inc. community, the more it can develop and influence others as we work together for a healthier and brighter future. Until next time.